is this beautiful design that adds spike cluster stitches coming out of the work and adding like a leaf effect to the fabric. On this video, I will teach you how to do the spike cluster stitch. I'll be using a 4mm hook and some cotton yarn size 4 in 2 different colors. Okay, so for this design, you want to start with a foundation chain that's a multiple of 8 plus 6. In my case, I have 22 chains. We're going to start with our color A. So we're going to create a base row. For your base row, we're going to skip the first chain and into the second do a single crochet. Now you want to do a single crochet into each chain of the foundation chain. So do 1 single crochet all the way down and I'll see you when you're done. Okay, I've done 1 single crochet into each one of the chains of the foundation chain. This here is the end of row 1 for the base row. So now we want to create 3 more rows of this. So you need 3 rows of this color before you can move on to the actual pattern. So every row we're going to start it with the chain 1, flip your work, and now do 1 single crochet into each one of the stitches. So again, we need a total of 4 rows of this color. So I'm going to do, this technically would be my row 2. It's still the base row, but this is technically row 2 of that. So I'm going to be doing this row and 2 more for a total of 4, beginning each row with a chain 1. So I will see you when I'm done. Okay, this here is the 4th row. I've done 1 single crochet into each one of the stitches. Now I want to show you before we end our 4th row, we actually want to change into our next color because we're going to be working the following 4 rows with that new color. So grab your color B and we can fold it like this, leaving a tail that we can weave in later. Actually, sorry, let me show you the very last stitch of the row of the 4th row. You're going to do a single crochet, but before you close it off, then you can grab that folded color B and close a single crochet with this new color to swap your colors. That's how we're going to be swapping every time we change colors, and we're going to be changing colors every 4 rows. So now this is technically row 5. Let's do a chain 1 here. Flip your work. You're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So here is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to be working a spike cluster, which is what's going to be showing here. It's kind of like those leaves that come out of the work. So for a spike cluster, we're going to work it over the next 5 stitches. And we're going to do as follows. So we're inserting our hook 2 stitches to the right of the next stitch and 1 row down. So what does that mean? This is the next stitch of this row. 1 row down is here. And 2 stitches to the right of it is here. Let me see. Down, 1, 2. So into that stitch there, insert your hook, grab the yarn and pull up a loop. Nice and tall so that you can bring yourself back to the row that you're currently in, like the height of it. The next one, you want to do 1 stitch to the right of the next stitch and 2 rows down. So 1 stitch to the right, 1, 2, 2 rows down, and 1 to the right. And pull up a loop, nice and tall. Then we're going to do directly below the stitch, 3 rows down. So basically right over here, insert your hook and then pull up a loop. Sorry, you know what? I let go of the tension of the second loop and it brought it down. So let me fix that first. That's going to be important that you keep the tension on these loops so it doesn't get like caught. Now this is directly below the stitch 3 rows ago, or 3 rows down, sorry. Then you're going to do 1 stitch to the left of the next stitch and 2 rows down. So basically the same as this, but to the left. So let's see here. This would be 2 would be, or 1 would be here. And then 1 row down and 2 stitches to the left. So here we go. It's a little hard to show you guys because I have a lot of loops on my hook. It would probably be wise to pause the video and then count, your rows, your stitches, and see what the placing is. It doesn't have to be perfect, as long as, you're kind of creating this V. You see the first and last loop are at the same height. The second and fourth loop are at the same height, and the middle one is like the lowest loop. Now you're gonna yarn over, and then let me see here. Oh, sorry, no. We're going to now insert our hook into the top of the next stitch itself. So we're kind of going backwards. This is the stitch that I gotta go into. So insert your hook there. And now we're going to yarn over, draw a loop through. So now you're going to have 7 loops on your hook. Kind of getting caught there. Yarn over, pull through all the loops. Let's see, it's going to be a little tricky because that first one is small. And then you've got the ones for the spike cluster. But there it is. Now that is your spike cluster stitch. That was a little tricky to show you. Let's do it again together. That's the spike cluster stitch. Now we're going to continue the repeat, and you have to do 7 single crochets, or one single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we got to do another spike single crochet. So let's do this again together. I'll try and be a bit more detailed now. So we are going to be working under. So this is the next stitch, right? This is the stitch that we're going to use for reference. The next stitch of the current row. So your first loop is going to be 2 stitches to the right and 1 row down. So this is my stitch reference. Then 1 row down, 2 to the right. So I'm going into here, grabbing a loop and bringing it up to my current height. Then you want to go 2 rows down and 1 stitch to the right of the next stitch. So this is 1 row, 2 rows to the right of it. Bring yourself up to the height. Now 3 rows down directly below that stitch, which is technically just the first row. And then bringing yourself a tall loop. Now 2 rows down to the left, 1 stitch. Now 1 row, 2 stitches to the left. Let's see there. Yeah, right over here. It's honestly tricky, you guys, even for me. But once you do enough of them, then it's going to start to make sense. So now I have these loops, 2, 4, 6. And now I want to go to the next stitch with my hook. I'm going to just use my finger to hold my loops there. Insert my hook into the next stitch. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop. If your loop is loose, it's going to make it easier for you. Then you have 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over. Pull through all the loops carefully. And that is your next spike cluster stitch. Now we can just do those 7 single crochets, or 1 single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And if you have more stitches, you're going to repeat that until the end. In my case, I am done and I have 1 stitch left. So you're just going to do 1 single crochet into that stitch. Now this here is the end of the 5th row. And now this is what we're going to be doing. So all you need for this design is single crochets and the spike cluster stitch. Because they're going to be kind of placed in between each other, you do have to do something different in your, let me see. So this is row 5, 6, 7, 8, and your row 9. So now we just want to do 3 rows of single crochets. So rows 6, 7, and 8, you're just going to start with a chain 1, flip your work, and do 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way down, making sure that you're going on top of the spiked cluster stitch. I'll show you. Just feels a little bit tight at the back, but yeah, making sure that you go on top of that stitch as well, that you don't miss it. And that's why we go into the stitch itself, to make sure that you're at the right place. So let's do a total of 3 rows of single crochets, and I'll see you when you're done. Okay, I'm almost done my 3rd row of single crochets after the row with the spike cluster stitch. You want a total of 4 here, including the one with the spike clusters. So before you do the last single crochet of the row, we're going to be changing colors. So we can go ahead and drop our color B, pull up our color A, and change it. So it's going to be kind of exposed at the side here. It's the only thing about this design. You could cut it. You could cut it and then reattach. Because I'm just doing a sample for you, I'm just gonna kind of leave it like that. But it's going to give you these strands at the front. So if you don't want those, make sure you cut your color and reattach. Now we are going to start the, let me see here, row 9, I believe. Yeah, 4, 8, 9. So for your row 9 is where we're going to do the next spike clusters that are going to go in between the ones that you currently have. So we're going to start with a chain 1 and flip your work. We're going to do a single crochet into each of the first 8 stitches. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we're going to do a spike cluster stitch, and that's going to lay in between these 2. So after those 8 single crochets, spike cluster stitch, and let's remember we start by referencing the next stitch, then going 1 row down and 2 stitches to the right. So it would be here. For reference, I go kind of into the stitch itself, pulling up a loop. Now we go 2 rows down, 1 stitch to the right. Now we go 3 rows down directly below the stitch. Now, sorry, did I say 2? 3 rows down is what I meant to say. Directly below the stitch. Now 2 rows down, 1 to the left of the stitch. Now 1 row down, 2 to the left of the stitch. And then pulling up your loops. Now we're going to go into the stitch itself with our hook, and I'm grabbing my loops just so I don't lose them. Yarn over, pull through, making sure it's loose so it's not hard for you to pull through. Yarn over, pull through all the loops. That's our spike cluster. And now we just do 1 single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that's the end of the repeat. So you'd go back to the beginning by doing a spike cluster and then 7 single crochets. when you get to the last 5 stitches, you're going to do your final spike cluster. So here I am at the end of the row. You're going to do 1 more spike cluster and then 1 single crochet into each of the last 4 stitches. So I'll do this with you. This is my stitch for reference. 1 row down, 2 to the right. So I'm going to go here into the stitch and pulling up a loop. Now 2 rows down, 1 to the right. Now 3 rows down directly below the stitch. Oh, sorry. Now 2 rows down, 1 to the left. Now 1 row down, 2 to the left. This one I always want to double check because I can't see anymore. Now we go into the stitch. I'm going to hold my loops. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop. And now yarn over, pull through all the loops. And now we're just going to do 1 single crochet into each of the last 4 stitches. 2, 3, and 4. And there we have it. Now you can go ahead and repeat this. So since you're with color A right now, you need 3 more stitches or row, of single crochets. Then you flip colors and then you're going to do the row 5 again. So you're just cycling through the same rows back and forth. Again, if you're going to be just pulling your color up, then you're going to be having, let me take this tail. You're going to be having these strands that show here. There you go. So you might want to just cut your color and reattach and then sew your ends through just so you don't have that exposed there. Okay, here we have it. Look how cool this is. This adds these beautiful kind of leaves to the work. I guess you could see it like this or like this, however you would like. And yeah, very simple repetition once you get the hang of how to do those spiked stitches. As I mentioned, you have the exposed thread on this side because I didn't cut my yarn. However, if you want to avoid that, you want to make sure that you cut the yarn and reattach instead of just pulling it through. That's the only note. Hey, while you're at it, why don't you just subscribe to my channel? Just do it. Just do it.